I'm so excited. It's setting up. I think I hit all the right buttons this time, ladies. So
Yay!
it should be coming up for real this time. Okay. I really appreciate you guys meeting up with me. I think we're live.
Yay!
As far as I can tell, we are.
Will we be able to see the comments, or can only you see them, Amy?
We should be able to see them.
Everybody?
That's a good question. I don't really know because I've never done this before. Let me see. I actually have my phone here because I wasn't sure how I can get to all the things. But if you can get to the Humility and Doxology Facebook page, you should be able to see the comments as they're coming in on this video. If you can sign in on that live video. But if you are joining us, I am so delighted that you are here. We are going to be talking about banishing the blahs, the technology blahs, the weather blahs, all the blahs. And if you are here, I would love for you to just pop in and let us know in the comments. Tell us the ages that you're homeschooling. Tell us your favorite chocolate. Are you a white chocolate, milk chocolate, dark chocolate girl? What kind of things help you banish the blahs? If you're thinking about those questions, you can let us know in the comments, and we are trying to figure out how we can, see them because I'm just that good at technology. But for those who don't know, my name is Amy Sloan. I'm a second generation homeschool mom of 5 from age 5 to 15. And I'm delighted that you're here. I am joined by my friends Mary and Lynna. You can find me over at humilityanddoxology.com and at the Homeschool Conversations podcast. And I'm going to let these ladies introduce themselves while I see if I can find your comments. So let's see, who did I have going first? And my handy dandy. Yes. Wow. Lynna, would you like to go first with your introductions?
Sure. So my name is Lena Sutherland, and I blog at Homeschooling Without Training Wheels, where I write about homeschooling. And then because I thought life was too slow and boring, I thought I'd start a second blog, Sibling Relationship Lab, where I write specifically about sibling parenting and just kind of gospel-centered parenting in general. The mom of 8 kids. I always feel a little hesitant to say second generation homeschooler because my brothers and I were all kind of homeschooled off and on, public school off and on, but I did graduate as a homeschooler and my children have been always homeschooled. So a little experience there, and still feel like I'm learning. I'm waiting for that day to come where I feel like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. Hasn't happened yet, but anyway, here we are.
And how about you, Mary?
I'm Mary Wilson. You can find me at maryhannawilson.com, and on all the social media, it's Mary Wilson blog, and also at Celebrate a Book and celebrateabook.com and Celebrate a Book on social media. I am a homeschooling mom of 4 kids. I am definitely first generation. I thought homeschoolers were weird when I was in high school.
You were right.
And they are. It's just I didn't know that my kids and I would become one of them.
We're weird in a good way. It's a good way.
Yes, it was and is. So my kids are 18, 16, 14, and 11. So I've got a house of teens and tweens, 2 drivers now, all sorts of excitement over here.
Yeah, that is really exciting. And I saw your post earlier, just as you're transitioning into the all middle school, all the teen years. And I've been having this sort of weird feeling this year with my baby being 5. He's actually about to turn 6. I'm trying not to think about that. It is just weird to kind of see these transitions of homeschooling and really of motherhood. And I think Lynna has said before, homeschooling is just like parenting on steroids. And so all the things you're already dealing with as a parent are just exponentially magnified now that you're homeschooling. So among the 3 of us, we have over 30 years experience as homeschool moms, let alone many years we had, Lynna and I being homeschooled ourselves. And I think all of us can say the homeschool blahs are a reality. Like it happens to everyone. Sometimes it happens in the winter, in the cold and the dark. And sometimes it just like happens out of the blue. And so we really want to come tonight and share our experience and share some encouragement and tips that you're not alone. And this isn't unusual. And we've been there. We're right there in the trenches with you. And so we want to hear your stories too, but we're going to kind of share some of our perspective and let us know if this resonates with you, like what kinds of things you think of when you think, how do you know that you're experiencing the homeschool blahs?
Mm-hmm.
So as we start, let's just ask that question. You might be experiencing the homeschool blahs if you let us know in the comments, and we'll share our stories. So Mary, why don't you get us started there? You might be experiencing the homeschool blahs with what kind of symptoms?
I usually know it when I'm very tempted to just turn on Netflix and chill, which probably means my kids are playing Minecraft or watching YouTube. And I'm like, we're all good. Everybody's good here. We'll be fine. And I was also thinking when I find myself on this thing a lot, I now keep it on my stairs to keep it away from me. So I have to like be very intentional if I'm going to go pick it up. And when I find that there's days I'm not, so I'm in the kitchen, I'm scrolling, I'm not watching CNN 10 with everybody. I'm not watching the doc, I'm like zoned. So for me, that's definitely, and that's not just February, but this has been a particularly tough month for all of that. Like you said, with the weather and it's just cold and we can't get outside. So.
Yeah, definitely. I can relate to that. And I think, I like what you said where the kids are watching. It's not necessarily like you're not doing the homeschool thing. Like the kids are still watching CNN 10, but you find yourself distracted. And I can totally relate to that. We do World Watch News in the morning. And I know sometimes World Watch is on and I'm over there scrolling my phone, not really fully engaged with what the kids are doing. So yeah, right there with you.
Zoning out.
Yeah. How about you, Lynna? How do you know when you're experiencing the homeschool blahs?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's just this feeling of there's just nothing that I'm looking forward to. Like I'm going to bed at night thinking, and tomorrow I have to wake up and put my feet on the ground and keep on doing this for another decade and a half. And I don't think I can do that.
I don't mean to laugh.
But yeah. So
but I get it. I get it.
So there are things where like, this is funny, but I used to have this, I've totally given up on the project and gotten rid of the materials, but I used to think that I was going to redo some of the screens in our windows, right? And I would have there were these materials for me to like redo the screens, and they were sitting by the side in one bedroom. And some days I would walk by and I would think, oh, I'm looking forward to doing that project. And some days I'd walk by and I'd see the same materials and I'd be like, oh, I'm a complete loser. I never get anything done. I can't handle anything. I'm not, like I'm a terrible mom. And so like those little things for me, it was like, if, it was my signal, like the thing that used to be exciting and I was looking forward to is now like, I can't handle this. This is terrible.
Yeah. How many times have we looked around and found the thing that we were like, oh yeah, that was a great homeschool idea that we never did.
Yeah.
Today I found a box of 4 science kits from 2019, like full of experiment materials that we never did. That was a great moment.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
I guess
fun.
Yeah, for me, I also relate to what you ladies are saying. I think, we aren't like a huge restricted screen time family. We don't restrict screen time to the weekends or something. My children actually like use quite a bit of screen time. It's something that our family enjoys. And I'm not worried about that. But when I'm getting into those blah phases, I do start to feel that I am using screens a little too much. Like when screen time begins to be something that I'm feeling worried about or ashamed about, or I wouldn't want anyone to know just how much time we're spending on screens, that's sort of a warning flag for me. And also when those really small problems start becoming huge catastrophes in my mind, like a child like forgets a particular vowel sound in reading lesson, and suddenly that becomes just a complete terrible problem, and like we're a failure as a homeschool family or whatever. That's a warning sign to me too. Like maybe I'm on the edge of some burnout, or something isn't quite right. The day I've told both of you ladies this story last fall, I guess it was, I had a complete hysteric breakdown in my chiropractor's office, like over something that was meaningless. It was one of the most embarrassing moments of my entire life. February didn't have to happen for that to occur, and that sort of like when things become a catastrophe that aren't really a catastrophe, or you just find yourself breaking down over kind of silly things, that's sort of a warning sign, like something isn't quite right. So I don't know if anyone can relate to those feelings, but that's sort of a regular occurrence in my life.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on from talking about like the kind of bad side of it to some of those tips and encouragement for moving past it. And I'll just get us started here. A lot of times what you hear, and even the advice that I would give if you're dealing with just a no good, very bad day, terrible day, would be to take a break. We all have those bad days, and sometimes the best thing is to just go outside, go for a walk, throw your plans out the window, do something fun with the kids. But what I have found over the years is when I'm in a more like extended period, and that's like basically anything more than one day of the Blahs, taking a break can actually be a really bad idea, because then you're dealing not just with the Blahs, but you're feeling with, oh, and now we're behind. And now you're dealing with the inertia of trying to get started again, and you're going against that friction. And so, although this might be counterintuitive, my best advice when you're dealing with like an extended period of Blahs is to not stop homeschooling, to keep going with your plan. Now, that may not mean doing all the fancy things and all the exciting ideas and, reading all the books or whatever. Our friend Pam Barnhill calls this the minimum viable day. And each family will come up with their set of things. Like, these are the things that we must get done for it to be considered a homeschool day. And our family, a lot of times that's morning time, math, read something with your eyeballs, as opposed to an audiobook. Some kids of mine need to like practice with their eyes. And those are kind of the primary things that we're going to focus on, at least the younger kids, but we're not just going to throw up our hands and have a free for all with the snacks and the screen time. And I find that actually really helps. Along with that, really prioritizing the relationships over the checklist. So trying to see past just my own Blahs, but also like seeing what's going on with my kids and trying to invest time in relationship with them in the midst of those hard times, I think is really, really pivotal and ends up bringing life back to those blue days. So that's sort of one of the things I would share. How about you, Lynna? Or no, Mary, you go first.
Ooh, one thing I would share is I like to plan for a break in February, so that I knew it was going to happen. And one thing that I have found really helpful, and it's funny because we just had this happen this week, is planning my own planning or professional development day. And just this week, my son, of course, he wanted off because his neighborhood friends were off on Monday for President's Day. And then his neighborhood friend was telling me, oh yeah, we're off until Wednesday. And I said, well, why are you off Tuesday? And he said, oh, it's a teacher work day. And see, this happened to me about like 6 years ago. I think I've been doing this for almost 6 years now, where the neighborhood kids were all off for a teacher work day. And I was like, wait a second, I'm a teacher, like, and I'm a professional homeschool mom. Like, my husband has conferences he gets to go to on work time, not like on his vacation. But why don't I use some work time for planning? And February is such a good month for it because it's like something to look forward to. Like, you circle a day on the calendar and you're like, that's my day to plan, to do what energizes me as a homeschool mom, watch a conference video, read a book, spend some time reading. Maybe it's reading a book you need to read with your kids that you just haven't had time to get caught up on. I mean, whatever it is that makes you feel like at the end of the day, all right, I did my planning and we are ready to go again. So for me, that's been very helpful to just have a day. Now, I will also say this. If you're in a place where you're like, dude, what I need a break from is my profession. I don't need a day that I think more about homeschooling. I have also taken days as teacher work days where I just went and took a break. Like, I literally left the house. And this is even when the kids were little. My husband would take the day off so that I could leave the house at breakfast and not come back till bedtime. And sometimes I read a book, or, I went to my favorite cafe. I've always enjoyed blogging. I've had a blog since my third child was 6 months old. He's now 14. So sometimes I would just type. This is back in the day where you just like type journal entries on your blog. So I also want to say that, like, if the idea of like planning for a day sounds like totally uninspiring, well, then maybe the idea of like sitting at a cafe for a day and reading your favorite book, because that's also going to make you a better teacher and better homeschool mom. So that is professional development as well.
Yeah.
I would argue.
I love that. And also, Mary and Lynna, in the midst of this, let's talk about things Amy isn't. One of which is apparently technology. Have been live, and I've been watching, and I've been thinking, why is no one, here joining us and commenting? Wow, that's because apparently I hit the wrong button, and we were live on my personal page. But no worries, I've now changed. This is so embarrassing.
Actually,
You guys
checked your personal page.
You
I
have
didn't
no
see
idea.
us there.
Well, now I just shared it to Humility and Doxology. You guys, I was driving home with a friend, and it was dark and it was rainy, and I was trying to direct her how to get home. So she had never gone to my house before. And we're driving, and I'm like, it's going to be the first left. And I was like, oh, no, it's not that road. Side note, it was that road. So then we keep driving, and I'm like, it's okay. We'll just turn left at the Domino's. And we're approaching an intersection, and I said, why is there an Advanced Auto Parts there? Like, there shouldn't be an Advanced Auto Part there. No, that was my road into my neighborhood. So yes, this is a house I've lived in for 4 years. Couldn't tell you which road to turn into twice. Anyway, we should be live on the correct page now. I am sorry. I apologize to everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Amy is a crazy person. That's just what we figured out now. Anyway.
Now we've summarized the first half.
Yes. So all of the things that we have said that were profound and wonderful will be available, obviously, on the replay here, and we will continue on. So let us know your questions here. But the next thing we're going to be talking about, no, we're still talking about this. I'm just so distracted by my own ineptness now. Lynna. Oh, dear Lynna, please now share your thoughts on banishing the Blahs.
Could it be that mom brain is another symptom of the homeschool Blahs? I really do think it could.
Well, yes, and also, can we also please all have a moment of silence for the fact that I am detoxing from caffeine? I don't know why I chose this week to do it, but I had 0 caffeine today, and this is like some herbal tea that's just not cutting it. So Anyway, continue on, Lynna, please.
Thank you for that illustrative lesson right here in the middle of our show. I think that was really kind of Amy to just, plan that in advance to kind of illustrate how tough things can be when you're detoxing caffeine and having the February blahs all at once. So I think for me, I kind of have one philosophical tip and then kind of some little tiny practical tips to sort of tag onto the end of that. I think for me, one of the most important things is to remember that we're whole people. We're not these little compartments of physical and emotional and spiritual and, the academic mom and the home, housework mom and the other, church and other obligations person. Like all of this stuff kind of draws from the same bucket, the same bank of energy. And so, in the winter, I have plenty of friends who actually struggle with SAD, seasonal affective disorder. So really when there's less sun, may really actually be struggling with depression. But I think even if you don't officially have some kind of diagnosis, definitely, in the winter when we're outside less and we have less sunlight, less movement, especially right now with COVID. I know my therapist said like she's just had a huge influx on her caseload just because everybody is struggling, and so I think we just have to recognize the fact that it's like with a family budget. Like if your husband had to take a pay cut at work or take a job that paid less, you wouldn't just keep spending the same and then look at your checking account and go, I don't get it. What's happening? Why, you would say, okay, we have to have a reckoning here. We have to like cut back somehow, or maybe we need some way to supplement this, or we need help from, like you would have to say, we have to readjust given the less capacity that we have financially. So we have to do the same thing in the winter. And I think oftentimes as moms, we just kind of set this bar for ourselves. And we feel like the first thing to do is to determine what must I do? And the second thing to do is determine like, how on earth do I make that happen? And that's kind of like saying, first, I'm going to determine all the things that I want to spend money on. Then I'm going to figure out how on earth to get money for all those things. Like it's completely backwards. So you have to start by saying, okay, look, it's February. I know myself. I know that I'm going to be struggling at this time. So instead of like somehow managing to like just pull myself up by the bootstraps and be the same person that I was in September or that I will be in June or whatever, just be honest, like, okay, I'm this person. This is what I have right now. And I'm not saying like, don't make an effort to get movement in your life or your diet or whatever. Those things are fine. But honestly, like plan for the person that you are, not the person that you wish you could be, or you hope you could be, or you were when you were 5 years younger or whatever. And so I think, some of what we can do to help in these times are just little tiny things that pour into you as a mom, kind of like supplemental income if you took a hit in some other area. So a couple of little things that have just been like a little, I don't know, extra happiness boost or something for me are things like there's this game on my tablet called Letterquest. For me, it was free. I don't know. I have an Android tablet. It was like a free download from the Google Play Store. It's this fun little sort of like RPG light, like a role-playing game where you can level up in certain strengths, but you're playing this word game. I have this weird quirk where I feel like I'm being a bad person if I'm not being productive. And so it was this funny, like, look, I'm being so productive because I've leveled up my shield and I'm also practicing spelling words. So this really counts. So I was able to trick my brain into having some fun and relaxing with this word quest game. Letting the kids sleep in later. I am not a morning person. I do not, under any circumstances, really look forward to, yanking myself out of bed, yanking the children out of the bed, cracking the whip, making everything happen. And so when it's dark later in the day and they're naturally sleeping in later, it's just been really helpful for me to just kind of let them sleep some, because it helps me to be like in the kitchen with my coffee, sorry, Amy, and saying, oh, isn't it lovely that we homeschool because the children can sleep in a little later? And this is so idyllic, instead of being like, well, the bus just went by, so I need to pull everyone out of bed because we're behind and we have to do, all the things and we have to keep a schedule. And, like Amy said, if you feel like, keeping on schedule is what will really help you, then by all means do that. But for me, letting them sleep in later, it was like, I don't know, just added a coziness, a little bonus flexibility to our day. And then the other little thing that we've done some is, has not worked in the last couple of weeks, but we have a fire pit. And so doing fire pit dinner, or maybe I have some friends who will do like picnic dinner in the living room in front of the TV or something like that. Just, it's kind of a fun family memory, low key. And the other key is it needs to be something that's actually like easier for mom. So for us, my teenage son goes out, gets the fire started, and we just put like hot dogs and weenies and marshmallows on plates and go and sit out there. And it's like this, you know, like wonderful, oh, we're all together and we're doing this like quality time thing that's so important. And also like that was dinner and we're done. And, you know, everybody had a lovely time and mommy didn't have to come up with some big plan. And so anyway, I just think big picture, realize that you don't have the same energy that you do at other times. Prepare for that. And then, you know, just do those little things that kind of add something to look forward to, a little spark of joy to keep you going.
And I love that too, because it's not something fancy or complicated. You're not saying like, come up with this really brilliant, you know, super creative, super complicated idea. It's like, go cook some hot dogs over the fire in the backyard, something that doesn't require a bunch of extra work, but is going to bring joy to the whole family and you know, relationship time and all that. I love that. Well, Mary, do you have another idea for banishing the blahs here?
Yeah, you know, if I would add one more, and we did this for a while, change up the order of the day. Normally we we have a certain order, and for a while we decided to start with the most fun thing, which is not normally what we do. And it rhymed. It was actually Trisha Hodges from Chalk Pastel that was like, oh, it's start with art. And I was like, oh, it is. And that's what we did for a while. Like people came downstairs, and that way I could have it all set up, because, you know, when you're tired and groggy and like you get through the things you have to get through, it's usually like the fun stuff that kind of was falling to the wayside, because it was just like, oh, we're all done. Go watch your screens. Where we started with it. So kids would come downstairs and chalk pastels were out on the table and a project was planned, and sometimes even before breakfast. We were sitting there doing chalk pastels, and then went and ate and then started our day. So for me, that was like a nice way to kind of change things up, is to start with something we'd all look forward to and then move on with the day.
I love that. And that goes perfectly into what I was about to say, because we love to start with our favorite part of the day. You know, people call it different things: morning basket, morning time, circle time, you know, whatchamacallit, whatever you call it. But it's a time when the whole family can kind of come together and do something that's delightful. In our family, because I like to pick things I like, you know, that looks like poetry memorization, Shakespeare memorization, read aloud, those shared family memories and culture. And the kind of flip side of finding something your kids will enjoy and finding something that brings delight to the children is sometimes we forget to ask, like, what's going to bring some delight and some fun to mom? And I am convinced that mom's enthusiasm and mom's attitude and mom's excitement about learning is a huge gift and tool for your homeschool. And when you start to feel like you're losing that, you know, that can be, for me, that can be a really discouraging feeling, because I feel like that's one of my superpowers in our homeschool. And so when I feel like I don't really want to do it, that can be really discouraging for me, because I feel like I'm losing out on this opportunity to share excitement with my kids. So what I love to actually do is, before I even start thinking about what might be a delightful thing or exciting for my kids, I actually think like, what am I really excited about? Like, what makes my little nerd brain happy and excited? And that might be, you know, Shakespeare. This month is our Shakespeare month at our morning time. We're going all in on the loved theme, memory work in our morning time. And I have all that printables that you can print for free over at humility on doxology.com. And I just decided, you know what, I'm going to find things that I'm really excited about, and we are going to enjoy that together. Because when mom is excited, it's kind of contagious and the kids start getting excited. We had the opportunity to go on a field trip to the planetarium recently, and that was super exciting. I get so excited about the planetarium. You cannot even imagine how excited I get about it. And so just finding those things. Now, that's me. That's my own quirks. But whatever your quirks are as a mom, I just encourage you to think about like what gets you excited about learning. Because we talk a lot in homeschool circles about like wanting our kids to be lifelong learners and to love learning and to want to keep learning on their own. But if we're not showing them that we love to learn, that there are just random exciting things that we want to know about, that may not be useful or practical or, things that are, they're going to use one day, but just things that are exciting and fill us with wonder and joy to learn. Like we're modeling for them that adult life of learning that we want them to have. So I find that when I make sure to include in our morning time, in our homeschool routine, in our day, when I make sure to include those things that get me excited, that is really contagious and seems to kind of spread out through the kids. So,
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Because if you feel better, everything feels better. And so the entire atmosphere is better.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. And also, it's one thing to like try to come up with a bunch of exciting things to teach your kids and like, but if you're all grumpy, like, go be excited about these fun things I have for you. I mean, they see through that. Kids are pretty smart. They know.
This is true.
Unfortunately. Well, I would love to hear what kinds of things are bringing joy to your homeschool these days. Like, what are things practically right now that you are doing to bring joy? And so, Lynna, why don't you get us started? What are you doing right now to find joy in your homeschool?
So there are two things that kind of both happened accidentally that we were like, yeah, okay, this is a good fit. We're going to stick with this one. A couple of weeks ago, we had our cabinets painted, and my husband works from home, and so we were like, okay, we can't be here. That the cabinet painting was like a week and a half long project. So we wound up homeschooling in my bedroom. And it just turned out to be such a phenomenal fit. Now, there have definitely been phases in life where that much closeness would have been too much. And I will say, like, to clarify, I'm not sitting on the bed with the kids. Some of the kids are on the bed, some of the kids are on the floor. I'm at my desk chair. So I'm not like covered in kids because I that would be too much for me. But I don't know, just I think, again, the coziness of it, and they're bringing blankets and pillows, and they're all getting snuggled up with their various activities. And, then I'm right there at my desk and I have all this stuff handy. And I don't know, it was one of those like, okay, I think we're just going to keep this because it's working for right now. And then the other is, we had a period in the day where we were alternating between science and history. We use a curriculum called Layers of Learning, and they have units. They're not units like you would think of unit study where everything is all connected to the same topic. There is some interconnectivity, but anyway, the year is made up of 20 units, and each unit has a history and a science in it. And so we would do the history from the unit and then the science, and then we'd go on to the next unit and do the history and the science. And it just was a little too disjointed. And there were some things coming up that I wanted to feel more connected. And so I thought, you know what, we're just going to do all the history for the year. And then when we're done, we're going to go back and do all the science for the year. So we're almost done with history, and the science, just the way we do it, the history is a little more intensive. I have more stuff that I want them to do, note taking and keeping a book of years and things. And the science is more just kind of like, let's try this. Plus it involves like supplies that mommy has to gather. So anyway, it's just been like, okay, doing all the history all in one chunk and then switching gears and doing the science. Like, I think we might just do that from here on out. That might be our plan. Just head into next year doing that. So that's helping, bringing joy, and they're enjoying it.
That's awesome. We actually did that purposefully for, I think it lasted 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
It felt good. It felt good to be done something partway through the year too.
Mm-hmm.
And my oldest son is doing dual enrollment this year. And so he like completed an entire course in the fall that was really, really challenging. And in the spring is doing a different course that is less time consuming. And it has been kind of nice to just like that sense of accomplishment of like completing an entire thing in one block chunk and then having a lighter load later on is kind of nice. Especially, I think it would be terrible if it were the other way. Like if you started lighter and then you got harder in the spring, but it's working well this way.
Yeah.
Well, how about you, Mary? What is bringing joy to your homeschool these days?
Right now, well, one thing, this has a little backstory. I'll make it quick. In August, September, like everyone else, 2020 was not my favorite time period. So one of the things I had given myself permission to do that was bringing me joy at that time, I love to read. I mean, I read all the time, is I gave myself permission to only read my favorite genre. And I must have read like 30 mystery and suspense books in the fall. It was fabulous. I don't even remember the plot of half of them because I was just plowing through. And it felt great. But I decided for 2021, I started feeling a little inspired. Like, I think it's time to leave this because I do like reading and I like reading a variety. It's just for a while, it felt really nice to indulge my favorite. So I wrote, in good blogger fashion, when I have an idea, I wrote an entire year reading challenge with 4 different categories every month that people could actually get. So maybe it would bring some other family joy. And I did it though in a way that I thought of my kids too. So you won't find self-help, which is a really popular category. And I love books like that. But I was trying to think, what are categories that my 6th grader and my high schooler, they could join in with me and we'd all be looking for a winter book or we'd all be looking for a graphic novel. So it's been really delightful. I think partly just because I needed to leave the mystery suspense for a while and read something else, but it's done what any good reading challenge does. It has me looking up books at the beginning of the month, finding new titles for the kids. They don't all do all 4 categories. They have a lot of reading to do with their own schoolwork. They're in high school literature classes, but they try to pick one, though my 6th grader has to do them all because he's reading with me. So we pick, and this month we had a graphic novel, and anyway, it's broken things up for me too. And that has actually brought me a lot of joy. And so I will recommend to everyone, the Goodreads fiction winner of the year was called The Midnight Library. My January category was a Goodreads winner. I have been on hold for this book since early December and just got it this week. Very worth it. So I pass that on if anyone's looking for just a good thought-provoking read. It was very good. So that's a big thing for me right now, is just the reading challenge. And then I'm on the home project phase of the pandemic. I understand that's an actual phase. It took me a while to get there because I don't normally like redecorating. But if anyone's ever seen me live, there's usually a cabinet behind me. It's not here anymore. I've redone a bathroom. I'm going to be painting this wall. So that's not something that normally brings me joy. But I think if anything, part of what we've been discussing here is it's a little different for everybody. And it's sometimes different for yourself from what was bringing you joy just a little while ago. So I think it's important to listen to yourself and kind of work that out and give yourself permission to say, well, that was really fun to redo, a bathroom and paint a few walls, but I'm kind of done with that now. Let's move on. I think I might download Lynna's app
Yeah.
or whatever it is. So that's the other thing right now for me.
I love that so much. I've enjoyed following along on your Instagram stories with your bathroom painting, because that is what I'm in the middle of doing right now, only not myself. But coming up next week, actually right now I'm in the not very fun part of getting all the pictures off the wall and packing up my millions and millions of books.
Yeah.
We have a big stack of liquor boxes in the front of our living room right now, which I promise you are not from our drinking habits. It is picked up because those make great book boxes because they're kind of
Yes, they
small,
do.
you know. So we're trying to pack up all our books so that the painters can come in next week. And I'm so excited. You guys, it's going to be colorful. I'm so excited. I cannot tell you how excited I am about this. It's going to be like a whole spa thing. That's what I'm going for. So that's definitely bringing me joy, but I guess maybe that's not a homeschool thing, but it's bringing me joy, and my joy spills over to my children.
That's right.
I think that when I think about homeschool this year, I will tell you, I am just really loving my one-on-one time with my littlest guy. So my baby, like I mentioned at the very beginning, is 5, about to be 6. And so it's his kindergarten year. This is my 5th kindergarten year. And it might be my favorite just because I appreciate it more. I know how fleeting that time is, what a precious year that is of just being able to sit together and read together. We take a pretty gentle approach to, well, a very gentle approach to preschool, and then still a very gentle approach to kindergarten in our homeschool. And so just to like do a little bit of math, a little bit of reading, and then sit together and read stories. Just now that I look at his big brother, who's, you know, way taller than I am and going to leave home soon, just that 10-year gap makes me ever so much more aware of how precious that year is with him. And so I think that I wouldn't have necessarily said in previous years, like kindergarten's my favorite, because you're just like, at, and you're like, it's bat. Like, it's not that hard. But aside from that, like, it just has really been really special this year. I think that's been bringing me joy. And then continuing our textbook free history approach. That's my favorite thing. We are in one of my favorite, we just really love ancient times. And so we're reading some of my favorite books to read aloud. I've read these aloud. This is probably like my 3rd or 4th time to kind of read them aloud to the next set of children. We just finished the children's Homer and are now reading Famous Men of Rome. And it's hysterical to see my children like reenacting the stories that we're reading in the living room, or be like, why did that dad just do that? And it's like, I don't know. It was a different time, but it's really fun. And then I guess another big thing this year has been World Watch News. We now kick off our morning every single morning watching a little 10-minute news video, something the 15-year-old wants to see, and the 5-year-old, and everybody in between. And that can be hard when you've got like that big age range. You know, Lynna, you know that it's like hard to find things that everybody wants to do at the same time. Yep. So World Watch News has been bringing us some joy this homeschool year. All right. Well, I am not sure if we have any questions. Probably part of that is because I started sharing it in the wrong page. Y'all, I just can't even with myself. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to bring them here and we will pop back in later and reply to them. And in the meantime, Lynna and Mary, I appreciate you both so very much, especially with my ineptness tonight and your wisdom that you have shared. Can you please let everyone know where they can find you? So Mary, can you tell people where they can find you?
Yes. So the website, maryhannawilson.com or celebrateabook.com. And then in all the social media channels, the end of them, the little tag on Facebook or Instagram is Mary Wilson Blog or Celebrate a Book.
Great. And how about you, Lynna?
Yeah, so homeschooling without training wheels, just to be fun, is not spelled, the full name is not spelled out in the URL. So it's hswotrainingwheels.com. And that same little funky abbreviation is me on Facebook and Instagram, and then siblingRelationshipLab.com. And you can also find that on Instagram and Facebook as well.
And you can find me at humilityanddoxology.com or on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube at Humility and Doxology. when I'm not accidentally sharing things to my personal Facebook page. And this replay will be available, Lord willing, if I don't mess it up, it will be available on the Humility and Doxology Facebook page, and it will also be available in audio form in Homeschool Conversations, which is my weekly interview podcast series. And this will be a bonus episode. So you can subscribe to that in your favorite podcast app and find it. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight, Lynna and Mary. Y'all are some of my favorite people, and I really appreciate you very much. Thank you for joining us tonight.
It was great.
Okay, let's see if I can cut this off without ruining everything. Okay? Let's see. How will I do that?
Putting Amy on the spot.
I just hit end meeting for all. Do you think that will like end it, right? If I stop the